techniques and tips that you can use with our new effects range. So whether you're using the crystal paste, the crystal glaze, some of our new silver, gold, or white glitters, or the luster wax, you're going to love the finished results of all of your projects. I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera down so we can have the overhead view. Make sure everything is in order so you can see. So you might not notice the difference by just looking at them. Well, one of them is clear, so that's the glaze. It kind of reminds me of the crystal in your mom's china cabinet that you weren't allowed to touch when you were younger. And then the crystal paste. They both have our glitter, have a little bit of glitter in them, but the finished result is when it's dry. So let me just show you really quickly. So I had die cut out of our Tim Holtz 3D Impresslit the snowflake. So I wiped a little bit of the crystal glaze on there, and it kind of gives it a shiny, pearly effect. So if you can see the little glitziness in there, dry shiny, you just wipe it on lightly over your embossed image, and the strong embossed image even is more punctuated when it's dry, especially with the crystal glaze. Now the crystal glaze dries shiny, like I said, but you can feel a little bit of the grittiness of the glitter that's inside of it. So as you can see, a little goes a long way. It dries clear, it's real pasty, and just wipe it on there, set it to dry, whether with your heat tool or in California, I could set it outside for a minute and it dries nice and shiny. Now the difference between that and the crystal paste is they both, like I said, have the glitter in it. You can see a little bit if I move it around below the camera. But this one, as you can see, is opaque, and this one is kind of clear, milky clear, but it dries completely clear. This one dries opaque, and it has more of a gritty grain to it. So whether you're tinting it with any kind of inks or spray stains, it gives any kind of color. So you can do a dirt, you can do a grassy, mossy look, whatever color you're using, or you can just do it completely all on its own, so it gives the grittiness of the snowflake. So I use the larger snowflake Impresslit, and I just used a palette knife, and if you could see the different layers, so it's kind of fun. Once I wiped it on and just let it go on the embossed image, I let that dry for a minute, and then I just kept adding more on and just adding more on. I could go ahead and add this on top of it to give it a shininess, but I like the dull flakiness on here. It doesn't flake off, but you can feel the grit to it. So hopefully you can see the dimension on there. While it was damp, I could have gone ahead and used our Sizzix glitter and sprinkled it on there, or dipped it in here just to have the edges done, and then dipped it into the glitter, whether the silver, the gold. Either way, it just gives a great little finish. So something similar I had done using that same Impresslit is I had just used our texture roll, this is the white, and just did it back to back. Just put a little adhesive on the center of it to give it a little bit of a dimension. It's kind of a fun little ornament. Here's a couple here. But what I did is I just took my finger and just lightly brushed it with the crystal paste. While it's damp, I thought I wanted a little bit more glitter, so I just took my fingertips and sprinkled it on top just to add a little more glitter. Same idea. I could have dipped it into the crystal paste and just added a more thickness, but I thought that was kind of a fun little thing. Could be a little gift tag. You can hang it on a tree, or have somebody's little name across it, and it would be a little place card at any of your holiday dinners, since now we get to have some parties again. So let me show you another technique. What I had done is, if you're familiar with our luster wax, this is the rose gold, and also a little goes a long way. Just do a little dab on that. But what I had done is I had gone ahead and I cut the same snowflake Impresslit out of our navy that's in our neutral cardstock pack. So if you could see the rose gold showing through, I just rubbed it lightly on top, and it gave a beautiful finish. I just love the contrast there. But once that's dry, and the luster wax doesn't really take long to dry, on a larger one, I just took the same crystal glaze and I just put it on there and just added a little bit of a sheen and a little glitz to that. So everybody loves a little glitz. So I thought that was a fun little technique to share with you. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back on here. These are the best little pots to use. Make sure I put the right lid on there, because the little plastic shield will keep it nice and moist, and it'll be good for a nice long time. So you want to make sure you always use that. Don't throw that out. Put that back on there, close that up. And if you're familiar with our luster wax, you'll notice that it has that nice little orange scent to it. So I'm going to just do a little bit on there just so you can see. Just a little bit with my finger. Just put a little bit on there, and if you can see how it's just barely needed any. I mean, I just dipped my finger in that pot twice, and it's still giving just what I need. And I just love that rose gold. Any of the metallics, any of the luster waxes look beautiful on there. Dab that on there a little bit so if you can see how pretty is that. Love it, love it, love it. And put that on there. It's got that nice little orange scent. So another thing that I had done is I used our birdhouse die, and I die cut it with just our festive cardstock, but I had taken the crystal paste, and with my palette knife, I wanted to add a little dimension to this birdhouse with a little bit of snow. But before I did that, I ran it through our Cobblestone 3D. It's one of our newer Tim Holtz 3D texture fades, and I did the rooftop on there. And I thought I'd add perfect little colors, perfect for the holidays, and I just did it really quickly a little bit ago, just on the corners, but you could just add a little sprinkles or little dabs of the crystal paste. But as it's drying, you could pull it down a little bit and just do snowflakes, icicles. I think that would be really fun. So I love that. So let me show you really quickly what these all look like. So this is the 3D texture fade. It's the cobblestone, and it has that beautiful 3D effect that mist your product, whatever you're using, whether it's obviously you don't need a mist foil, but if you're doing any kind of paper or thin wood, mist it a little bit just to soak it, just to get the fibers all softened. Run it through the machine, and it gives a beautiful, beautiful impression. And here is one out of the package. So what you would do is, just say your paper is one-sided. You're going to want to put your cardstock down with the good side, with the wrong side against the positive. So if you're familiar with the texture fades or any of our 3D embossing, there's a positive and negative. These images match perfectly against each other. So you want to make sure when you run it through the machine that your image of your embossing folder is going to push up into the material and matching up with the negative. So say my paper is brown on one side and white on the other one. Obviously, the part I want to have embossed is the brown side. So I'm going to lay the white side against the positive, close it down, run it through the machine, and it gives a beautiful effect. And what I had done, same idea, is I had done this on white cardstock. Just a piece of white cardstock. Hopefully you can see the effect as I turn it a little bit. Hoping. What I had done is, which plain white cardstock it doesn't have to be smooth, but it was smooth. And then I just misted a couple different distress ink colors onto a little blob of the texture paste, and I just kind of spread it with my palette knife and set it outside to dry, and it was still soft. It's almost like malleable. It's almost like it's not even, doesn't even feel like paper anymore. But ran it through the machine several times because the paper was still a little bit damp, but not the texture. The crystal glaze wasn't. This was a crystal glaze. Sorry, not paste. The crystal glaze was not still wet. Just the paper itself was still damp, and it still is. And I did it this morning. But I just ran it through, and if you can see how fun that turned out, hopefully you can tell. But I just love the effect on that. And any colors, I mean, obviously this isn't a cobblestone color, but I just thought this had a great, great effect. So here's another, just a piece of the black cardstock, ran it through, and that's using the gold luster wax. Alexis had just rubbed it down on there, and it gave a beautiful effect. I mean, the dimension is stunning. Can you imagine what this would look like with all the little grit and colors in between? And here it is on white cardstock with an actual cobblestone color ink. I love how that turned out. Another idea is I just wanted to show, or another product, is I wanted to show you the 3D Impresslet for the snowflake. It cuts it and it embosses it all in one time. Run it through the machine, mist up your paper. It'll still cut beautifully, but the impression will be absolutely stunning. So whether you're using a thin foil or any kind of metallic paper, any kind of cardstock, the impression and the cut lines are beautiful. And as you could see on these other pieces, this is just using our navy cardstock, running it through the machine. This is using the same Impresslet with our texture roll silver. I just love how that turns out. And this material for the texture roll is nice and soft. It kind of I just missed this side because the water would just roll off of the metallic side, but just missed the back side because that's the porous. Run it through, and I mean, the detail. Can you handle that? Gorgeous. And this is this is a gorgeous card that Alexis had created. I absolutely love this. It almost looks like a metal piece. She die cut it out of black, used the gold or rose gold, I can't tell, embossed luster wax, wiped it on there in those colors with some mist and some inking. Absolutely gorgeous. It looks like an actual metal embellished piece. I think it's stunning. So this is a great technique that she shared with you. I hope some of these other techniques that I showed you have inspired you to create some things. Here's a couple other pieces that were cut. This is using a blue cardstock, so you can see this is our bluebell and this is our silver from our opulent series of silver cardstock. This is the bluebell, and look how beautiful. I mean, the image is so pretty. Whether you ink that up or leave it as is, it's absolutely beautiful. So I think this is stunning. I love the different techniques that you can come up with. We would love to see what you have to share with us. But whether you're using glitter, the Impresslets, the embossing folder, the crystal glaze, the crystal paste, or the luster wax, you're going to love every minute of it. I hope you've been inspired by what you've seen today. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in our comment section below. We'd be happy to answer them for you. If you'd like to see any other inspiration, tune into our Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube channels, and also on our website. Feel free to share with us any of the project you've created by adding #MyMakingStory. Thanks so much